Dolphin fans, are you hitting that? You know what I'm talking about. Are you hitting that? Are you hitting that subscribe button? Get your head out of the gutter. We're trying to get to 14,000 subscribers on this bad boy. So if you haven't already, hit the big red button that says subscribe. And if you want to see your questions on the next mailbag, the only way you're going to do it, I'm going to say it again, is if you hit that subscribe button. It's Miami Dolphins mailbag time. Mitchell Renton's here from Chat Sports, ready to answer all of y'all's questions. And we do a lot of different shows here at Chat Sports. These are always my favorite because you guys get really creative, and I can be 100% brutally honest, and yet sometimes you guys very surprise me. Off to a great start. Let's just go to Gray Otter here. Question coming in. Who is the best trade target the Dolphins should trade for in the draft, like Breida last year? Well, you said best, and then you bring up Matt Breida. If you're looking for a Matt Breida trade, that's not the one that you're going to go for. So how about this? Before I give you guys my answer, who do you think is the best trade target? So you're sitting there, you're looking for a player that can really impact your team. I want you to go down in the comments and let me know. My player that I think it was probably the best trade target and most realistic player to make a difference on this team is Orlando Brown, offensive tackle for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, he has come out and said that he wants to play left tackle. I'm simply going to say this. He wants to be paid like a left tackle. If you pay him like a left tackle and put him at right tackle, he'd be more than happy to come to this Miami team. So let's just say, even though that this draft class is very deep, Brown probably is still one of the best offensive tackles, even if he would be coming out in this year's draft. 6'8", 345-pound Orlando Brown. That's my answer. Let's go to my man Landon McVay. Even with getting Will Fuller, should we consider trying to get another free agent wideout to get Sewell, maybe Antonio Brown? Well, I don't really know what getting Penei Sewell has to do with Will Fuller. If you want Penei Sewell at pick number 6, you go ahead and do it. In terms of getting another free agent wide receiver, I want no part of Antonio Brown and AB as far as I'm concerned. Anytime that he's brought up on any of our shows, we tell people to, hey, go down in the comments and spam FAB. He would be a cancer to this team. The only two teams that I think make sense for Brown are the Baltimore Ravens, which he's actually been working out with his cousin, Hollywood Brown, and then also the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady. This next one's coming in from Ryan F. Ryan, I always tell people if your picture looks like this, to get a picture because you can see me and I can't see you. So I love my Miami Dolphins, but there's no chance in hell I'd have that mailbox. I don't even want to say what it looks like. What he's talking about is I asked y'all, hey, submit your questions, and the picture that I posted in terms of a Dolphins mailbag so you guys could go underneath and comment was this picture. So for those of you that don't know what he's talking about, I want you to caption this Dolphins mailbox. What do you think it's doing? What do you think Ryan's implying here? We're trying to have a little bit of fun. If this is your mailbox, I'm sorry. I didn't think it was that bad, but what I want you guys to do is go down in the comments and caption this Dolphins mailbox. All right, let's go to the next one coming in here from Dakota Colty. Who do we draft in the second round if either Travis Etienne or Najee Harris, if they are there? Wow. Grammarly, Dakota, it's an amazing thing. Try it out. I use it all the time. So in terms of Travis Etienne or Najee Harris, I don't think Najee is going to be there, and I don't think Travis Etienne is going to be there. Honestly, at pick number 36, we'll see. Maybe one of those guys ends up sliding. But if you're really stuck on trying to get a running back, which, judging by this question, is kind of where I think you're going, Javonte Williams, Kenneth Gainwell, Michael Carter, the only player that I would draft in round 2 out of those 3 names that I just mentioned would probably be Javonte Williams, who I do consider him a very good comp to Raiders running back Josh Jacobs. But even at pick 36, it's still a little bit too early for me. If you're going to go and take one of those other running backs, it's Williams at pick number 50, and that's even at the absolute earliest. Now, today's show is brought to you by Newsbreak. We just partnered up with these guys, and if you're looking for a brand new app that's going to totally change your life, go to chatsports.com/DolphinsNB. You have to go to this link. It's the only way that we get credit, and I'm just trying to be honest with y'all. So why should you download the Newsbreak app, okay? You can get local news and weather. You can get politics, food, pop culture. If you're trying to find what's going on in your city, there's no better way to do it. And how do you do it? Chatsports.com/DolphinsNB. So if you live in Miami Gardens, if you live in Miami, if you live in Fort Lauderdale, no matter what, it doesn't matter what your zip code is. I imagine that news, weather, politics, and you can get even more sports content once you go to chatsports.com/DolphinsNB. By the way, it's going to be in the comments. It's also going to be in the description. Give Dolphins Today a follow. We would appreciate it. Let's get to 100 followers by next week. All right, the next one's coming in here from Luca Clements. At 18, should the Finns take edge rusher like Jalen Phillips, Azeez Ojulari, Kwity Paye, a tackle like Darisaw or Tevin Jenkins, a running back like Harris, or trade back and try to acquire even more capital? I think it always depends on which type of players fall down the board, right? Do I think that the Miami Dolphins could potentially trade back and get even more draft capital? Sure, I don't really think it's ever that bad of a thing, right? But if you're in terms of if you want to go out and get an edge rusher, I do think it actually makes some sense here for Miami to trade back. And I love Jalen Phillips. He's actually probably a top 20 player for me at this point. I love Azeez Ojulari. I think Joseph Asai would be a great player to help replace somebody like a Kyle Van Noy. Kwity Paye is a great athlete, but he does scare me a little bit. Ronnie Perkins isn't somebody I would draft in round one. So in terms of going out and getting an edge rusher, the player that I like the most is probably Jalen Phillips, which I know a lot of y'all probably know from the U. But if I want to trade back and if I could get extra picks for Joseph Asai, dude, I'd be absolutely just thrilled by that. You also bring up, though, some offensive tackles, and Tevin Jenkins is probably the best right tackle after, Darisaw, in my opinion. Samuel Cosme is a pretty good player in as well. Penei Sewell, if you mentioned trade back, if somehow Penei Sewell slides like he's done in some Mel Kiper mock draft and some other mocks like where he's down at 12, man, if I'm Miami, I figure out a way to package like 18 and figure out a way to package like pick 50, go up and get Penei Sewell if he's sitting there at like pick number 12. Rashawn Slater is another player that I absolutely love. Christian Darisaw is another player that I absolutely love. Luckily for Miami, they have a lot of options here. There's no doubt about that. So take a guess here. I want you to look into your crystal ball. Will the Dolphins trade back? I want you to type TB for trade back, or I want you to type SP for stay put. They've been a very eventful team this offseason, and realistically, when you go back and look at the last year, the Dolphins have been one of the more aggressive teams in terms of trade. So I don't know if they trade back again in round one, but I'm going to take a guess. Maybe not even a guess. I'm going to take a gamble and say that I bet you that they trade back or trade forward at least another time this upcoming draft. This next one's coming in from Jace Johnson. What up, JJ? If Sewell is still there at pick 6, do you draft him or somebody else like a wide receiver? I've been saying for a long time, if Penei Sewell is there at number 6, it's not the sexy name, but I think it's the best name. You're trying to be able to protect Tua Tagovailoa, and you're going to be able to have a solid right tackle for probably 10 years, and I think he's going to be all-pro status. I mean, he's not even 21 years old yet. He's an absolute freak when it comes to an athletic ability. He's the guy there. In terms of wide receivers, it really comes down to a guy like Jamar Chase, DeVonta Smith, or Jalen Waddle. You got top 3 picks. Maybe you go with a Waddle or DeVonta Smith because of the chemistry with Tua. But if you were to ask me which wide receiver do I think honestly has the best chance of being truly elite, I might actually go ahead and say Jamar Chase. What up, Iban Schwartz? Got the long message on today's show. I think Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase goes to the Dolphins at 6, so that's pretty interesting to me. I love Kyle Pitts in terms of an overall athlete. He might actually be the best receiver in terms of just like tight ends / wide receivers in this group. But who at 18? I think it's between Azeez, Jalen Phillips, or even Jason Owe. Or do you take a running back or tackle at that pick? Your thoughts? I mean, if I'm comparing Jalen Phillips, Azeez Ojulari, and Jason Owe, no disrespect to Jason, I'm a Penn State guy through and through. He is a good athlete, but he just doesn't quite rank in terms of those other players to me. Owe is actually a guy that I think you could get at pick number 50. I know we've seen him go pretty high in certain mock drafts, and if certain coaches fall in love with him, that's fine. But I'm not going to pick him at number 18. And then at running back, if you want Najee Harris, if you want Travis Etienne, I think you probably have to go 18 because I don't know if either of those guys are going to be available at 36. What up, Dakota? You're next up here on this Dolphins mailbag. Draft Chuba Hubbard. I believe is what you mean, unless you mean Chubb Hubbard. Even if we draft Harris and do the Dolphins draft Newsome of he's there are 36 and an Xavier Howard trade. Wow, that is a mouthful in all the wrong ways. So in terms of the first guy you're talking about, we'll stick there and then we'll go back to the question. Chuba Hubbard, he's coming off a pretty rough year, and whoever his agent is, whoever his team was that said, man, that you should go back to Oklahoma State for another year. They should be ashamed of themselves because he was probably one of the top running backs. I think he actually would have been a top, I'm not going to say round 1 pick. Probably would have been drafted, though, on day 2, and I think that's pretty confident to say that. Had over, 2,000 rushing yards 2019. 2020 was a little bit banged up, and I actually don't even think he was the best running back on that team. If you want to take another guy like this in terms of depth, sure, but he's a day 3 pick at this point, maybe round 6 in my opinion. And then in terms of a Greg Newsome is a player that I absolutely love, long and lanky. I don't see them moving on from Xavier Howard. As much as I like Newsome, I'm not trading X to go out and get somebody like Newsome. And if he's there at 36, I actually think he will end up being there at 36. But if getting Greg Newsome means I'm trading Xavier Howard, I ain't doing it. All right, y'all. So should Miami go out and draft Chuba Hubbard, type D for draft, type P for pass? They still could be looking to go out and getting another running back. Obviously, it depends on what they do early on, because if you go out and get a Najee Harris, a Travis Etienne, I mean, I'm pretty good with Myles Gaskin and even Ahmad. I mean, 2 guys that I thought, when called upon, filled in pretty nicely. And Miami, this goes, shout out to Gainesville out there, Eric Studsville. They did a phenomenal job with the offensive line, or not offensive line, with the running back group. So I'm going to simply say pass, because I'm actually a little bit worried about Hubbard and his just overall workload. It's just too much. This next one's coming in from Kellen Gnarl. I think I got that right. And I believe this is the last question on today's Dolphins mailbag. So as a reminder, if you didn't get your questions featured, it's all good. You can comment them below, and we'll bring those questions that we see below and put them on the next mailbag. All right, what do you guys think of the trade idea, drafting Pitts at 6? All right, I got you. And then using 18 and 50 or another pick to get Smith. So you're talking about taking basically Kyle Pitts at 6, who's a phenomenal tight end. And if you're trying to put a lot of talent around Tua, let's say there's a world where, DeVonta Smith starts to fall down a little bit, and you're like, okay, now I got to go out and try to make a move. So you're saying pick basically 18 and 50. When I looked at the trade value chart, that equaled exactly what the pick for the Dallas Cowboys would be at number 10. And then I asked our Cowboys host, Tom Downey, I was like, Tom, what do you think about this trade here? Would you do it? Tom said yes, in an absolute heartbeat, he would do it. So would you do it? If this idea came across where, all right, you got Kyle Pitts at 6, you then can get DeVonta Smith at number 10, would you do it? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I mean, you're really trying to build a lot of talent around him. I mean, think about an offense with Devonta Parker, DeVonta Smith, Mike Gesicki, Kyle Pitts, Will Fuller. I'll tell you what, that's pretty to me. And then you could probably still get a running back like an ETN, like a Javonte Williams at 36. I mean, I don't know how many more excuses Tua would have. You still need to be able to build that offensive line, but you have to admit, those offensive skill position players sounds pretty good. So before I go, one more time here, Y for yes, N for no, would you do this trade?